So I'm going to introduce, here he is. I waited for you to change your dress.
Out of my dress.
You're out of your dress. So this is Dr. Anthony Cardelia. He was born and raised in Rochester, Michigan, where he still lives with his wife and 4 children. He has been a family medicine physician in Shelby Township since 2003. Dr. Anthony is currently part of the Henry Ford Health System and has various leadership roles over the years in the area of integrating technology as part of the medical practice. He is a member of the Catholic Medical Association and follows the teachings of the Catholic Church in his medical practice and does not prescribe birth control pills or devices and is trying to incorporate more prayer with patients to help them with their healing. Dr. Anthony started coming to the shrine in 2015 and has found it to be truly a place of peace and healing. He has been serving as a sacristan here at the shrine for at least 4 years and is currently serving on the board of directors. God bless you, and I appreciate, again, he's been a great blessing to this ministry in many different ways. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, good afternoon, everybody. As Catherine said, my name is Dr. Anthony Cardelia, and it's really been a great honor to have Catherine ask me to speak. I think the speakers I've listened to, I think all of them except for one so far, and it's kind of a high bar to live up to. And so this week, the topics are, Matt had mentioned earlier, the fasting from anger, fasting from anxiety, and feasting on patience and feasting on faith. So these are 2 topics that I think everybody in their life has some experience with. You can't hardly go through life these days without seeing examples of this all around. So I think these are just very prevalent topics, and anger and anxiety. Catherine, you took half my talk though, just there with your exhortations. So maybe I'll shorten things up. No, just kidding. So as far as anger goes, for me personally, I kind of have it bad. I'm half Scottish and half Italian. So, I get angry, with little things very easily. But as a doctor, that is genetic. It's not my fault. And then as far as anxiety goes, that really hasn't been much of an issue for me in my life until the last year. And there's so many different things that have been going on with the world these days, political situations, the pandemic, especially being a physician in the pandemic, and all these different views and things like that. So definitely anxiety has been something that I've personally experienced now over this last year, and what I did to try and sort of overcome that is kind of what we'll talk about today as well. But Catherine said it perfectly. Trust in the Lord is a big part of that. More recently, one of the things that really causes a lot of anxiety is Catherine calling you up and asking you to give a talk about anxiety on April Fool's Day. No. So yeah, it was kind of funny when she called. I couldn't answer her call when she first called, so it went to my voicemail. And so, a lot of times people from the center and the shrine here will call, and for whatever reason, it always pops up as Catherine Lanni. But it's never her, except for this time. So, I hear her voice on there, oh, please call me back. I just want to talk to you about something. And, the rational brain that is the part that triggers anxiety took over, because my first thought was, uh-oh, what did I do wrong? So, it's like your hands start shaking, you get a little bit sweaty, your heart starts beating really fast, and, it's like, and I'm thinking, it's like, I'm having a panic attack. And it's like, so this is what, people experience, and it wasn't really to that degree, but, and then, she reassured me, everything will be fine, all you have to do is get up and talk for 15, 20 minutes, just like I do every week. That didn't help at all. But here I am today, and one of the big things that I started looking at when I started talking or researching these topics here is really to kind of find out what the definitions of all these things are, because I have definitions of anger, anxiety, and patience and fasting, patience and faith in my head, but so I kind of wanted to have the Catholic perspective on things. And, the Catholic definition of anxiety in the first place is a general feeling of apprehension about the immediate or eventual future without any discernible cause for fear. And then acting on that anxiety or failure to act because of it is a lack of trust in God. And I think the Catholic definitions of all these things are so much more rich than anything I've ever thought about. And that's one of the things that I kind of love about our faith. As you start learning more and more and more, it really opens your mind up to a lot of things. The Catholic definition of anger is a desire for vengeance. So, but also in learning about these things, it also, the Catholic teachings say that also neither of these two issues, anger or anxiety, are inherently evil or sinful. And some just examples of that, we should feel anger against sins of abortion, in war when innocent people die for no purpose. Those are all things that we should rightfully be angry about. And even to the point where failure to feel anger or act upon those things is a form of sin. So other things that, when it becomes a sinful type of anger, is when you become angry over things that are unjust. Actually, Sister Piper was part of my joke here, and she left. So, anyways, because I was listening to her talk, and she was talking about forgiveness, and especially had to forgive that person who took the last crouton in the soup line in front of you. So, but those are types of things. Other things that become sinful anger is when you wish upon somebody to have pain. Somebody who hurts you, you want to hurt them back. And then anger that's out of proportion to any real cause. The example that came up in my head about that is, you have a little child at home, they drop something on the floor in accident, and you send them right to their room, and you punish them for doing something that, accidental. And I think we all have examples in our life where we experience those things. And again, my Scottish and Italian, somebody cuts me off, I want to go around and cut them back off and slow down. So, those things are just easy to feel. And I see so many examples of them around in our society today. So one of the other things that the Catholic definition with, especially anger, the sinful anger is something that we need to fast from, because one of the definitions there is that when you feel anger like that, it clouds your mind and it clouds your love for the other person who you're angry with. And that sort of came to mind. One of my wife a couple of years ago had written on something in the kitchen, one of these quotes, and I couldn't remember where it came from, and she said that actually it was from the Baltimore Catechism. And the quote is, "Sin darkens the intellect and weakens the will." So this idea that anger sort of clouding our love for others really and creates a lot of callousness and is coldness. One of the examples of this that I've seen actually in the last few weeks since the war between Russia and Ukraine broke out, I've heard theologians, politicians, people I know, people that I respect, and offhandedly, a lot of times they kind of suggest that somebody needs to take out Putin. And not for lunch or dinner, but to kill him. And that is just, it was shocking, number one, because, some of these people are people I've heard on the radio, and I was just kind of like shocked. I was like, did I just hear that? How can somebody be, who's so in tune with the Catholic faith? They write books and they, teach on this, and they're on the radio and they're very public. and they're just offhandedly, it's like, well, yeah, maybe somebody will take him out. And that's just something that God fully has control of who lives and dies, and for us to feel that way and take it out of his hands, I think is very, very sinful. One of the other things that with this pandemic over the last 2 years, I think it's been a really big trigger for a lot of people. So these conditions of anger and anxiety, they really kind of divided the world. There seems to be very clear lines drawn a lot of times now between religious, non-religious, Republican, conservative, and different groups. How many people here know of either a family member or a friend, even personally, that won't talk to them anymore? Because I have patients that come in, no, my kids won't talk to me because they have different viewpoints on the vaccination, treatment, masks, and different things like that. And it's really hard to see that people can be callous like that. But there's tons of examples all around. So as far as anxiety goes, it's also very normal to feel anxious, and actually can be a very healthy thing. Example would be, you should be anxious over at night walking down a dark alley by yourself. That's a form of anxiety that could potentially keep you safe. But it's when we start focusing on a lot of the what-if scenarios and the things that you really truly will never have control over. You give away your own self-control to something that ends up really being kind of imaginary. But it's easy to do, and there's a lot of paths to go down that way. Like I said, a lot of times it's, for patients that come in for me who want to talk about anxiety, it's not always obvious what the reason is and the cause of their anxiety. It's very easy to blame it on the lockdowns and pandemics and everything else, but most of I would say really 80% of the time or more, people are really struggling with what's the meaning of life, what is faith, what is my faith, and what does that mean, or they've given up faith completely, and they really don't have anything that they really have to rely on. I just had a young man who was in on Monday, 30 years old. He's single, and he is just going through a lot of anxiety. And that was one of the things that he said to me directly. It's like, is this all life is? I go to work, I come home. I go to work, I come home. I don't have anybody. I go to work, I come home. It's like, I like my job, it's a good job, but, what's the meaning of life? And so I gently started asking him about faith and God, and I know and treat and see his sister for similar issues, and she had a reversion to the Catholic faith, and sort of really changed her life around. And I asked him about his faith, and he just shook his head. It's like, no, I gave that up a long time ago. I don't believe that there's a God. And so as we kept on talking, though, about faith and God, and how did you come to that decision? How did you come to that conclusion? And a lot of people come to these conclusions by just, it's a thought they thought of in their head. There was no research, no study, no discernment for that. It was just something that they either got disappointed with, or something didn't happen, and eventually it just brings them down to this level. Luckily for him, by the end of the appointment, he was saying things more like, well, there is something. I should read about that. I should look into that more. And by the end of the appointment, he was so much more sort of confident in himself and other things, just because he knew that he was going to be okay. And so, just introducing that little bit of faith, so that feasting on our faith and that trust in God is very essential. So, but I think a lot of this has been also caused by just the gradual removal of God and religion from public life. The family has been under assault for years. I think my daughter the other day was saying that she thought she heard that there was a 60% divorce rate now. So 60% of families are, divorced, and children are not having mother and father and helping them to navigate through life and the world. And that's purposeful. That's the act of the devil to break apart the one thing that he can't resist, is strong families that are faithful. And it's definitely very prevalent. So I think there are more people today on antidepressants and anti-anxiety medications than ever have been in the history of modern medicine. If I refer a patient off to counseling or therapy, it's probably at least a 4 to 6 month wait. That's just getting worse and worse as well. So, definitely there's a lot of things, as Catherine had kind of alluded to earlier, a lot of things that Jesus has to say, and we could go on and on ad nauseum about, all the things in the Bible. If you look up, and if you have an electronic Bible and do a search, and you'll find passage after passage after passage if you reference anxiety or anxiousness in both the Old Testament and the New Testament. But as she was saying a little while ago, the bottom line message was, don't be anxious about tomorrow. It's not going to help anything. You can't do anything about that. So let tomorrow be anxious for itself. It's a very simple message, but it's extremely hard to put into practice. It's really hard to let go. It's a gradual process. Kind of one of the corny sayings that we always see in some of these leadership meetings that people talk about is they always ask everybody when you have a big project or something to tackle, they ask you, how do you eat an elephant? Pretty simple, one bite at a time. So, these gradual little bites out of these mountains in front of us, we can chip away at them, and, we can grow from there. So I think that gets to, again, more so, what are the answers to some of these things? So, number one, feasting on patience and feasting on faith. So, as far as patience goes, again, when you look at the definition, my definition as a dad of 4 kids is basically trying to get the kids to be quiet and not whine and complain about something. So, and that's not even close to what the Catholic Church teaches. And then I was just praising my rosary this morning, and then, in the fourth mystery, Jesus carries his cross. I forgot and didn't even think about that. The fruit of that mystery is patience. And so that's something I need to reflect on more now every time I come to those passages and those mysteries, to really kind of focus on that. So the Catholic Church, their definition is that patience is a form of fortitude and enables one to endure evils without sadness or resentment in conformity with the will of God. And that's a way better definition than mine. So how do we do that? How do we feel sad? How do we not feel sadness or resentment when people hurt us? It's the love of God. And it's like, if you've ever had somebody where you're trying to help, pouring out love upon them, when somebody does that to me, you can't even feel sadness or resentment. You feel, in that moment, you feel loved, you feel comforted, and I think that, that love of God is really important. It's easy to overlook and take for granted. I think it was Bishop Burns. A long time ago, he had given a talk at St. Andrew, and it was for sure during the Lenten season, and this was a long time ago, so it was back when I was still younger in my Catholic knowledge and things like that. I really always felt a form of sadness when I looked at the cross, and he was the one who taught me that. He got up there, he's like, when I look at this cross, I feel loved, and I feel love, and nobody should feel sadness when they look at this, because the sacrifice that Jesus made on this cross is pure love, and without it we're nothing. And so the looking towards the cross and Jesus' example is I think just a wonderful thing. This shrine is such a jewel and a gift to the world and this area and all the people who come here. I can't talk about these things without having this be part of the answer. Ever since I started coming here, the first time was for one of the events, and so it was busy. Archbishop Alan Vigneron celebrated Mass, and it was a nice party, a great dinner. We met a lot of extremely nice people, and then I started coming back on my own. And so just my experiences with coming here, the first thing is just driving in onto the property. It's like, as soon as you drive through the gate, it's like this coating over top of you. It's like, and everything just kind of melts away. One of our priests at our parish, he's very sci-fi, superhero oriented. So I got to thinking of him as like you think about in the sci-fi movie where you go through this energy force field, and once you're through it, it's like everything else on the outside is just blocked out and taken away. And that's definitely something that I feel here. Not to mention this is such a wonderful place of healing and peace. And there are spontaneous healings that have occurred here multiple times. But that's not the usual. So, continuing to come here is really a great opportunity to have that peace and healing so we can, face the struggles outside in the other world. So the other thing that's really, for me, that I experience here is really the palpable feeling of the presence of Jesus. So this is something that I had never really experienced before in any other church or receiving communion or anything like that. But, I just want to tell you two examples of that. And so when I was training to learn how to do the sacristan duties, and Ralph was showing me the lay of the land and everything. And so we were standing in front of the tabernacle. And I never told Ralph this, so Ralph was going to be like, oh, I didn't know that. So, but we were standing in front of the tabernacle, and then he opens it up. And he's just showing me, well, this is where the Luna is, and this is, and if we have too many hosts, then we got to get the big ciborium out, and it's got to go in sideways like this. And, my brain's hearing all this stuff as he's talking. I remember everything. But as I'm standing just off to the side and looking into the tabernacle, it took every ounce of my strength not to fall down. And just like, there's this warmth and this love and this feeling. It was so overwhelming. My knees were shaking. I almost fell down. And I was like, I was just amazed. I was like, that love is in that tabernacle all the time. All the time. And it's there for us. And Jesus is not stingy with it. He doesn't want to keep it to himself. He says his heart is overflowing. It hurts not to give that love out. And we should be greedy. That's a different thing, but it's not bad to be greedy sometimes when you want things like that. And then I had a similar experience. This was probably a year later, and this was before the sisters were officially sisters and everything had taken off. Catherine had, I think it was after one of the board meetings, and she was kind of showing us around where the convent was going to be, and we came to the room where they had just recently got approval from Archbishop Vigneron to put a tabernacle in the room upstairs where the sisters are, where the convent was going to be. And the same thing. I was just standing just in the entryway of that room, and it was that same warmth. Jesus was just waiting to come. And it's like, and he was already there in some regards, but the sisters are so blessed.
Yeah, they are.
That, and I've always, every time I think about the sisters, it's like, in short time, they're going to be a large order with multiple women clamoring to come here, and their ministry is going to spread out, and their holy hospitality, their prayer ministry, and everything is going to change this area in ways I don't think we can even imagine. So, and I think those things about this center are definitely unique. It's really a blessing that this has been designated a shrine, and it has lasting power. It's going to be here, and it's going to help to change lives. So as far as, again, getting back to that fourth mystery, Jesus carrying the cross, one of the ways that we can practice this patience is that desire for carrying our own cross and afflictions for the love of God and accepting them with that spiritual joy. So Jesus says in Matthew 16:24, "If any man would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me." So that is definitely advice to follow. But it's hard because the cross implies suffering. And my perception of today's world, and I see a lot of people come into my office with this same thing, they don't want to suffer at all. They want something magical to take everything away, make everything perfect, never feel sorrow, loss, anger, anxiety, depression, or anything. And that's, a media message that they're given. It's a lie that they're fed. And so how do we do that? And again, that's through our faith. Because Jesus says soon after that, or actually it was a little bit before that, Matthew 11:30, "My yoke is easy and my burden is light." So there's also that promise that we are not going to be doing this alone. And I think that's where I see so much more of the suffering coming in, is because when people come into my office, they are alone. They feel isolated, alone, nobody loves them, nobody can help them. And, a lot of that they turn on themselves, and they try to do everything on their own. They try to just snap themselves out of it. They try to exercise it away. They try to eat healthy for away, vitamins. And those things work, and they do. And sometimes, in those situations, and it's very necessary to have friends and doctors and people in your life that help you to overcome these things. But God is putting them there as well. So, I don't know how many people have, it's like, well, there's I'm not going to tell that joke. But the bottom line of it is that, a guy on a roof in a flood, and the water's rising, and here comes a boat, and come on, guy, hop in. And it was like, nope, I'm waiting for God to save me. And here comes another larger boat, and then finally a helicopter, and then the guy never gets on board because he's waiting for God to save him, and he ends up drowning. He goes up to heaven, and he's like, "God, why didn't you save me?" "Well, I sent 2 boats and a helicopter for you." So, sometimes waiting for a miracle is not, you're looking for the wrong thing. You need to look for the neighbor who's going to help you out, cook you a dinner, somebody's going to mow your lawn or take you to the grocery store, a family member who's going to do the same, or a doctor who's caring, compassionate, will listen to you. So those are the things that combat anxiety and anger, because almost everybody who comes through, it has that isolation and alone sensations and feelings. So I think also one of the most, profound messages as far as faith goes is right here all over the center. It's from the message from the Divine Mercy. So it's, "Jesus, I trust in you." And when you look at what is faith, again, the Catholic definition, faith is the acceptance of the word of another trusting that their word is honest and truthful. So again, you're trusting. And when it's God that you believe, then that is your divine faith. And when it's human beings that's believed, that's your human faith. And both are equally important. So faith and trust, I don't think they can be separated. So when you talk about one, you really talk about the other. And again, that idea of trusting, submitting our wills and ourself. And that was the fifth mystery today, the crucifixion of Jesus. The fruit of that mystery is denial to self. Part of it is denial to self. And, dying to yourself, letting go of what we feel we need and want, and surrendering that to Jesus is very difficult. So, but again, some of the promises, one of the things that Jesus said to St. Faustina in her diary, this is from paragraph 548, this is Jesus talking. He tells her, "Your duty will be to trust completely in my goodness, and my duty will be to give you all that you need. I am making myself dependent upon your trust. If your trust is great, then my generosity will be without limit." What a promise. And that's not just St. Faustina, that is written for all of us, and that is what Jesus wants, and that's what our church teaches. And I don't think a lot of people understand and know that message. And that's where this shrine is going to put that word out there and have that message really be heard by everybody, so that we can heal and grow as a society. So it's all pretty simple, isn't it?
Yep.
We should all have this done by tonight, right? Yeah, I don't think so. There's that elephant again, right? Yeah, eat it one bite at a time. But I think everybody here already kind of knows this. That's kind of why you're here at the shrine and not doing something else. But I don't know, maybe at this point in my talk you wish you were somewhere else. I don't know. But I'm almost done. So this is definitely a difficult process. But in Lent, I think this is the best time to focus on this kind of process, where we do give up those things that are keeping us back. I mean, definitely it's very difficult, because even giving up simple things, I don't care what it is, if you're the typical chocolate or other type of, sweet pleasure that you like, by the end of Lent, it almost seems like you tried to move a mountain. And you're just like exhausted from, that battle every day. And that's just for little things like little bits of food, or your TV time or computer time, or other things that distract you from that. So, and then, as Catherine said earlier too, there's plenty of saints that have wonderful examples of struggling with and dealing with these things and overcoming them. So St. Faustina herself, a lot of anxieties. In her diary, you hear all the time that she's worried about her different assignments and whether she can do them. She had a lot of health issues. Would she be able to persevere in her upcoming sufferings, and her faithfulness, out of her interactions with the other sisters there. And we have St. Mother Teresa, Calcutta. At the end of her life, with her writings, we found out that she struggled a lot with not feeling the presence of God through pretty much most of her life in her ministry. She had a great, sort of epiphany and feeling of God and His message for what she needs to do when she was younger, and then never experienced that again, and always had these doubts in her mind about what's going on, why don't I feel God? But she persevered and she stuck with it. And then there's St. Padre Pio, and something that I didn't know, but he was a very, very sickly man. He had a lot of health issues, went through a lot of pain and suffering, and that got worse and worse and worse as he got older, as he became more in tune and deeper in his faith. He kept on getting more challenges, and he's like this shining example of holiness and faith. in our modern days as well. So, and then also this time of Lent, the Stations of the Cross, great example of how it's very easy to sort of fall down. And even Jesus himself fell 3 times. He had to have Simon of Cyrene help him carry the cross. And so now his burden, I would argue, is immensely more difficult than any of ours. But, you know, in our state of being lowly humans, it can be just as burdensome. And so I think the message with that reflection is you really have to keep on picking yourself up. And, you know, when I went through my struggles last year with some of the things that were coming down from higher ups and colleagues and feeling anxiety and frustrations, you know, ultimately I had to just tell myself, I put everything in the hands of Jesus and Mother Mary, and whatever's going to happen, I know they won't let me be hurt. And everything worked out. And that is something that has been so powerful over this last year, is that, and it wasn't easy to do. And, you know, a lot of sleepless nights and tossing and turning. As my wife said, my head hits the pillow and I snore until the alarm goes off and nothing will wake me up. It was hilarious because, well, to me it was. But when the younger kids were younger, I would frequently wake up in the morning and be like, wow, that was a great night. None of the kids got up. And she would look at me like I had 4 heads. And she's like, what do you mean? They were up like 4 times. You didn't hear any of that? And I was like, yeah, no, I'm sorry. So, yeah, so I've never experienced insomnia until this last year. And well, I had a little bit of insomnia last night, thinking about everything I was going to say. So that was the anxiety again. But, you know, so one of the other things today, and I know somebody in the back there, Miss Jennifer, I owe a response to an email that she sent me. But this was kind of like a really potentially, well, it has been, it's been doing pretty well now. It's going pretty well. But after I'm leaving here, I'm going back to my office to let everybody know that I'm not retiring, but I'm resigning from Henry Ford and my practice to start a new practice venture. So that's a lot of anxiety too, because I've been thinking about that. I had like 3 speeches to write today. So I had a speech to write for this, I had a speech to write to my office staff, and and there's another speech I need to give next week to somebody else on in the afternoon, and it's like, how steady am I now? Not too bad. So, but I think that, you know, just kind of summing up, it's very difficult to block out all this stuff from anger, anxiety. You can't. And I've had priests tell me that, and as you go back into the confessional, and you're like, oh, Father, I did the same sin again. When am I ever going to stop doing this? And, you know, the one priest looked at me directly and said, never. So you're going to suffer with this for the rest of your life. You know, to some degree, it might get better at times, and it might get worse at times, but, you know, the likelihood is that you're never giving this up. And, you know, and it's something that you have to modify how you react to it and deal with things. So these angers and anxieties are always going to be there. One of my, and I don't want to say that it's really a warning, but as I said before, coming here to the center has been a great source of blessings through my life and my family and just things that go on. But also, I've never personally felt like I've been more attacked and suffered in a lot of ways. So I think that when you come here, you're protected. And when you leave, You have all these demons that are, hovering around here trying to get in but can't. And then as soon as you walk outside, you got a target on your back. And so it's really easy to have things, the devil wants to take down the most faithful. And so return here often. And donate often when possible. Keep these doors open, as Matt said. And bring more and more and more people here. And have them experience the love and the healing that Catherine has sort of grown up from this very small ministry, but that powerhouse of Jesus behind them, we can pretty much do anything.
Amen.
So, thank you very much, Catherine.
Great job.
So, my heart rate can start going under 100 now. So, but I appreciate your time and everybody coming out to the center. It's been really truly a blessing. I was joking a lot about the anxiety issues and Catherine, but my heart did skip a beat when you asked me to talk. But it's been a beautiful experience, and I really relish it. And if she asks me again next year, I won't feel anxious, I promise.
Thank you. Outstanding job. Thank you for everything that you do. You help so many.